Happy 4th of July, everybody. Sometimes inspiration strikes in strange ways, and as I've been sitting out here recording some demonstrations, I've been being eaten alive by mosquitoes. And I don't love it, so I'm thinking tiki torch. I'm going to show you the most basic possible tabletop little tiki torch project. You can buy the wicks from the big box store and get yourself some citronella oil and hopefully avoid the fate that I've just encountered. You definitely don't want these things tipping over, and I don't like to make them too big. If they're too large, there's a lot of oil in there and it's never going to get burned up in the time that you're sitting outside. So I'm going to make this thing with a little bit more than a pound of clay, and in the interest of not tipping over, it's going to have a wider base and it's going to come in narrow. This is a great project just to get a taste of collaring in. It's not as difficult as a bottle because it doesn't have a neck on it, but some of the same principles apply. Definitely want to be nicely centered. I'm going to center it. I'm pushing down with the thinner eminence of my left hand. That's this meaty bit at the base of my thumb, so that I get a little bit wider base. I'm going to open to leave a 1/4 inch in the bottom. I don't need more than that. Perfect. I'm going to draw out nice and horizontally and then compress that clay. And I'm going to bring the wall up. When you're going to close a form down, it's really important to leave a little extra thickness in the area that you want to collar. A thin wall, instead of compressing inward and getting narrower, will ruffle, and then it's really difficult to get it to come in. So I'm going to just pull up, but I'm going to let off my pull as I come towards the top and leave extra thickness. Again, I'm going to get some clay up from the base. And then letting off, leaving it a little thicker at the top. So that's probably a really great volume of oil. It's about the size of a coffee cup. Drying out the inside, because once I close it down, I'm not going to be able to get in there to get the water out. So might as well do that now. I want to really make sure I've got all of it. And I'm going to just take a little bit of a flare at the base here to get the most out of that clay. All right, let's talk about collaring. It's not something that can happen from one part of the pot. It has to happen from the entire circumference of the pot. So we want to make a circle with our hands, and the circle should pretty much match the starting size of the pot. So there's different circles. There's this biggest one we can make with our thumbs on the opposite side from our fingers. We can do this kind of a shape where our thumbs and fingers are on the same side and our wrists are joining. And then there's one of my favorites, which is finger, finger, thumb, thumb, knuckle, knuckle. So I make kind of a hexagon that gets around it. I'm going to start with the wrists and fingertips method, and then as it gets smaller, I'll switch. I dampen my hands, but I'm not letting any water fall on the inside. So that's getting down to where my hands are having a hard time closing. So watch out for this. This is great that this happened. I'm getting the shoulder pooch, and if that happens, you need to straighten it back up. Sometimes your whole pot will collapse if you let that shoulder pooch out too much. Now I'm going to switch to the finger, finger, thumb, thumb, knuckle, knuckle move and bring it in some more. Now at some point you start collaring and it becomes difficult. The form, even though it's left thick, wants to start to ruffle. So you want to come in with your fingers and recompress and pull that clay upward a little bit. Don't make it too thin. You just want to help it decide it doesn't want to be ruffly. And now I can collar it some more. Notice my wheel is going fairly quickly, and that's fine. When you're collaring, you want to get a lot of work done with sort of a little bit of finesse, not a lot of pressure. Draw that in. Now I've got it almost down to the size where a wick will fit in. But you can see that my error has accumulated a little bit and my top is uneven. So I'm going to hold still and let that get round again. And then I'm going to take my needle tool and hide the evidence. Just cut it off level. Compress that lip. And now I'm gonna really start thinking about the size of those wicks. I don't want it to be where I can't get the wick in, but I also don't want it just sort of flopping around in there. They, for me, fit about the size of my pinky finger. You may have to use a different finger depending on your hand. Go ahead and collar that down until my pinky just fits. And that is perfect. I'm gonna take my chamois and just smooth out that rim a little bit. And then I'm just gonna use the rib to refine this shape. Honestly, the shape doesn't make any difference at all. The wick will wick the oil out. It can be as lumpy and bumpy as you want. So for me, this is a great project for beginners who are trying to get the hang of collaring. No pressure. It's all about keeping the mosquitoes at bay. And you know, you can never have too many. So practice, make more. So tempted to cut it again. Right after I said it doesn't matter. All right, that's got a little taper to it, but at the point where it matters, it's the size that'll fit my wick really nicely. Now I'm gonna come in with the rib and just clean it up. So taking the rib, removing a lot of that slurry. Probably take my wood knife and take away a little bit of this clay at the base. Not so much that it's going to impact the stability of the form, but this is one that's not going to be tipping over. I'm not too concerned. And I think I'd like this to have kind of a distinct break between the vertical part of the pot and the horizontal part of the pot at the top. So I'm going to come up and use the flat side of my rib, and then I'm going to come with the flat side of my rib again and create a really nice distinct corner. There, that looks great, except for that goober that I left on the side. All right, I've chased those goobers back and forth enough times that I'm going to call it good. And all that's left to do is put whatever glaze you want. The stoneware clay is going to get watertight, so you don't have to worry about glazing the inside for visual reasons or even for functional reasons. You can throw a little glaze in there, kind of swirl it around and dump it out just so you can feel happy that you know it's glazed in there, but it's not super important. And then the outside, go to town. These things don't take a lot of time or a lot of clay. You can experiment with new glaze combinations. I love to do a second dip on the upper third and just see how the glaze is going to run down and interact with the base glaze. You can try out some wax resist techniques. Just have fun with these. Consider them practice for collaring and practice for glazing.